Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are starting a brand new sports anime. I'm so excited. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Romania Black. I'm an English teacher, I'm a speech coach for a collegiate speech team, and I'm also a big geek that loves anime and manga and grew up with it. And so I love spending my time watching anime, watching manga, watching donghua, watching danmai. I'm a big BLGL shipper. I love ships. I like geeking out about anime and manga and Japanese animation. And I have, since I started my channel nearly 5 years ago, have had a sports anime on my channel. I started out with Free. What a way to start. And so I started with Free Iwatobi Swim Club, and it's just all gone from there. And I've watched baseball anime. I've seen running anime. I recently just completed Ping Pong, which is amazing, and you need to go see it. I've seen March Comes In Like a Lion. I've seen some non-traditional sports anime, and I've seen some very, very sports anime like Ace of the Diamond. And then I've also seen Blue Lock, and that's that. So I have honestly been, to be frank with you all, intimidated by this series. I've been intimidated by this series for years because ever since I started looking at sports anime, Chihayafuru has been on my radar. It has been in the polls before. It's gotten second place, I believe, before. But I do my polls on Patreon. And so it has been in the polls and in the wings, and people have recommended it for a long time. And I've been honestly intimidated by it for two reasons. One, because it's long. It's 3 seasons of 25 episodes. So it's like 76 episodes worth. It's going to be a year and a half of watching, essentially, because I do 1 episode a week. So it's like a year and a half dedication to this show. Which I've had a year and a half dedication to other shows like Ace of the Diamond before, so that's not a big deal. But the other thing about it is it's kind of crossing into something. The only thing I know about this series, because if you're new to my channel, I like going into these series completely blind, like as blind as possible. The less I know, the better, because I love discovering things as I watch. I love talking about it. I love talking in the discussions about the episodes and theorizing. And then I love when the show reveals the answers to the questions that I have, right? So my thing is, the only thing I know about this series is it has something to do with poetry. And I feel like that's a lot of pressure because I'm an English major and an English teacher. And so you would think I'd be like all gung-ho about it, but I don't know how to feel about Chihayafuru because I don't know a lot about it at the moment. But I don't want to seem like a bad English teacher if I don't know every poet under the sun or every reference. But it is also Japanese poetry, possibly, which I know nothing about. So that will be refreshing to possibly learn about something that I have no knowledge of. So as we go through this episode, there's a link down below to the reaction. You can come back after watching the reaction and we'll discuss the episode and my thoughts about it and my theories about it. The one thing I ask in the comments is please no spoilers. That means don't tell me about things that are going to happen in the show. If I'm wrong about something, but the show is going to correct me, let the show correct me and I'll figure it out. I just recently watched an episode. It was episode 10 of a series. And the first 10 episodes, I had not figured something out. And the moderators just let me be because they knew how I was. And then episode 10, I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. And they're like, so just be patient with me and have faith that I'll figure it out and the moderators will help me if need be. But I love checking comments and I love talking about this show with people. But if your comment has a spoiler, a hint, or a clue of things to come or character developments to come, then I unfortunately will have to ignore your comment and heart it and move on. So that's just how it has to be, but that's how the channel has to be for me to stay away from spoilers. So with that being said, I'm super excited to dive into this series and see what in the world we're getting started with. It won the poll. I did a big sports anime bracket, narrowing it down from 16 sports anime down to this one. And Chihayafuru, it beat out greats like Hajime no Ippo. It beat out Yaomushi Pedal. It beat out a lot of other series that I knew were kind of big names. But this one has been on the radar for a long time, so I wasn't surprised when Patreon came out to vote. So I'm excited to start this journey with you all. I think it's going to be interesting. Now, this first episode came out in 2011. So 14 years ago, it's an oldie, but I'm sure it's a goodie because y'all have recommended it. So I'm really excited. I hope you all are as well. I'm going to get this episode started. Obviously, we're watching the Japanese subs, but I'm curious to see what we get. So with that in mind, we aren't going to waste any more time. We are going to start Chihayafuru, episode 1 of season 1. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. Before we start, in case if you're wondering why I have a giant dry erase board behind me, this is Whiteboard Coon, who is the explainer of all things and comes around every now and then on my channel when I feel the need to write out stuff on a board for you all to see, because that's the teacher in me that just like has to come out sometimes. But oh my gosh! So without spoiling anything about Ping Pong, which is a series that I watched before this, amazing. You should go watch it. It's the polar opposite of this in terms that it's only 11 episodes. You'll get through it in a week. This is going to be a different experience. Without spoiling anything, there are some shippy moments in Ping Pong, but I wouldn't say there's some outright ships. This series comes out of the gate with a love triangle. And I was like, oh, okay, come on, with its fruits basket realness right here. Yeah, so Arata and Taichi and our dear Chi-chan, is it Chihayasa? I'm not the best with names, so it's gonna take me to look on the screen here, but interesting, but at least Chi-chan here. Oh my gosh, I love their characters already. They are set up to be so interesting. We're gonna write them up on the board here in a second. I'm so fascinated. Taichi and Arata could not be more different. I love me a love triangle where the two on either side, the two male love interests, are total opposites, and I'm like, but which team are you on? I feel like if I say I'm like Team Arata out the gate, people will be like, well, you don't even know. Taichi's gonna go through these arcs and character development and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure that's gonna happen. I'm sure I will flip-flop and change my mind. Arata could turn out to be a jerk when he's in high school, but as a kid in grade school, adorable. He could turn out to be a little, because he was like a first-year middle schooler at that point, I'm pretty sure. He could turn out to be a jerk when he's in high school. I understand that. And they could do a complete 180 flip where Taichi starts out being the jerk in middle school, and then in high school he turns out to be a sweetheart, and Arata started out as the passionate, precocious kid who's adorable, and he turns out to be a jerk in high school. They could do a 180. I'm excited to see what this series will give us in terms of that. But Chia, she's great. I love her. She is so fun. And I want to talk about this, and we're going to go through the episode, and just I like going back through the episodes once we've watched it and did the reaction, and kind of going back through, writing out any observations that go, these episodes are short. They're only 22 minutes. I was like, dang, when we were getting down the wire, I was like, we don't have a lot of time left. Are we going to make this a two-parter? No, they got through it. So Chia she loves Kurata, which is the idea, the game. And also I understand that people will probably want to explain the game mechanics. I like, from a sports anime, learning as we go. And I feel like in a series like this, they're going to explain the rules. You'll get to know how the game works. What I like about this is a very unique to Japan game. I'm sure maybe other countries have adopted it. We don't really have this here in the US. We don't have this game. As a kid that was an English major, I would have loved this as a kid. It would have been fun, right? But the idea of Kurata is the game of 100 poets. And it's mainly, it sounds like you're memorizing all of their poems all their poems that they're saying. So you have to get their poems, and you have to know the next verse as it comes. And then you take the cards and develop. Now, there's a lot of game mechanics I don't know at this point. Like, I don't understand if you get, like, if this is like Pokemon card games where you build your booster pack of poets in the hopes that you're going to get a certain one, or how that works, how that divvying up goes. I'm sure we'll find out as we go through this. But Chia seems to be like, she has gotten into the game of Kurata and she really likes it. So we start out, of course, at a high school, as one would. I'm glad we're starting out in high school. I'm glad that we're going to get flashbacks into late elementary, early middle school, but the main story is taking place in high school, as one would. And so they talk about one of the new students, Ayase, the sister of model Ayase Chitose. So we're going to put her over here. So Ayase Chitose is the sister, and she is currently a model. So things worked out well for her. I mean, even though she was the runner-up in those pageants 3 years ago, she is a model now. Although I don't know if models in Japan, if it's like the idol scene where there's just a lot of them. And so becoming the best of the best is, not something that's directly attainable. I don't know. I'm curious to see how that goes. I also love that right off the bat, we get out of the way all of the guys who are just surface level, like, oh my God, she's a model's little sister. I bet she's cute. And like the moment that opening scene, I was instantly like on board with her character. Like she has no time for these hormonal teenage boys who are only seeing her on a surface level, that aren't getting to know her and what's under the surface. I was like, get that bullshit out of here. I was like, okay, all right. I love that instantly these guys are all smitten with her and they're just like, surface level hormonal jerks. We also have like all the posters for the different things. Like we have the basketball club. We have the one that's like for the golf club is so intense. He's like, join our team. I think that's golf. The guy with the cap on is so intense. And then it looks like we have a bowling team. We have a Sarune team. Great stuff. But she puts up her poster for the Kurata club up there, hoping that somebody will join, and nobody wants to join, which is so sad. So Chihaya, which is Chihayafuru. So that makes sense. Maybe Chihayafuru is a suffix for something else. We'll find out. But we have Chihaya. Chihaya, I love her. I love her already. She's so precocious. I love her little drawing of, so Chihaya Ayase. The competitive karate club. I love it. I kind of understand, I guess the equivalent that we would have of this in the US would be competitive forensics, which I coach, which is memorizing speeches. But you write your own speech and you memorize it, or you do memorize, different character monologues and things like that. But it's not like you don't have to predict and choose things in an order. So it's a totally different thing. But it's definitely not an athletic event that people normally think of as athletic, even though it does require a lot of muscle memory. It does require some dexterity and athleticism, believe it or not, to be able to walk around in heels all day. But it is a sport because it does require a lot of mental preparation. It requires practice. There's a lot that goes into it that people don't think about. So I can appreciate her understanding that this is not just a hobby. She views it as a competitive event. Chihaya is so pretty. She is so pretty. I love her. And I love that she's grown her hair out, which is cool. I feel like when she was in 6th grade, she went through it most elementary school. Like I was that way too. I had the 4th and 5th grade bob with the giant Coke bottle glasses. I went through that same bowl cut phase, I think. And I looked very much like a 12-year-old boy up until high school. Very much did. So I understand where she's coming from. But yeah, she's really pretty. And she takes that and is like, oh, thank you. And I just love her automatically. Has the tracksuit. I love that she's very do-it-herself. She's very do-it-herself. She goes to her own beat. But I like that she's not a Mary Sue. Girl has some flaws. One of those flaws is that she often speaks before she thinks. But even though she speaks before she thinks, she has a kind heart. And she doesn't, buy into the bullying that some of the other kids do, especially towards Kurata at the beginning. So yeah, I just love her right off the bat. She's like trying to get everything done. I love that she's doing it herself. It's great. It felt very Revolutionary Girl Lieutenant in a sense when the teacher was like, wearing tracksuit pants and a skirt. It's like, yes, I just love that she does her own thing. I can relate to Chihaya because I remember being in shop class in high school and my teacher, he was very old school. And by old school, I mean, he was kind of sexist at the time. And he was very much like, oh, well, young lady, if you want to, you can just go drill holes in this wood in the back of the class. And I remember thinking, that's dumb. No, I'm going to build something because why shouldn't I? And it took a while, but there were 3 of us in the class and 3 of us that were women. And we were like, we're going to build stuff whether you like it or not. And he was like, okay. And then we just did what the guys, and we were, no offense, but we did a lot more work than the guys in that class. But we were definitely not going to just stand by and be presumed based on our looks, right? I love it. Also, she's a little bit ditzy because the teacher's like, you know, I told you couldn't do it with a skirt. She's like, that's why I put the tracksuit pants on. She's a little ditzy, but it's cute. I think it's very endearing, right? It's endearing. And so she's like, you keep trying to start a karate club. And then these guys say, everyone's saying how she's pretty. And so the teacher's like, but you always fall asleep during classical literature. So she has this aspiration. She has this aspiration, but she is a little bit ditzy and not the most studious. I don't know. I just getting off of ping pong, there's a very good chance she can turn it around in the 3 seasons we're going to be watching. But yeah, these dumbass jerks, they're like, oh, everyone thinks she's pretty, but it's wasted as soon as she talks or does something. Well, screw you, sirs. You don't deserve her. If you can't handle her at her tracksuit skirt phase, you can't handle her any other time. I'm like, yeah, I'm glad she doesn't have to waste her time on those guys. So we're going to skip the OP because I'm sure I'll be talking about the OP as we go. But yeah, so her friends are trying to get her to just stop trying to get a karate team started and go do track. So we find out that in middle school, she did do track as the official club, and she did karate as a hobby. But now she wants to get more into professional karate and getting more into like actually competing in it, because you know, when you're in grade school, I mean, a lot of kids do competitive ball, like travel leagues and stuff like that, but a lot of sports you play as a kid are just hobbies. You know, I did like play a year of soccer as a hobby, and I did basketball for a year to try it out, and I think I did t-ball in first grade as a hobby thing, but it wasn't ever anything serious. And then when you get into high school, usually middle school and high school is where sports do get more serious for students. So she's like, I just wanted to meet people through track. So one thing to note about Chihaya is she is an extrovert. Or she's an extrovert. She wants to meet people. She wants to hang out with people. She likes people, which good for her. Arata seems very introverted. Taichi's very extroverted. So she's like, I just want to meet people. She's like, what is that supposed to mean? I think she's probably trying to just convert them into karate players. I like the color Chi-chan. So anyway, she's like, it would be nice to have teammates. Girl just wants some companionship. She just wants somebody to play with. That's why her in that scene with Arata was so sweet. So she's like, I figured high school was where I could find other players and focus 100% on karate. I do like the idea that she's trying to up her game and get devoted to the sport, and she has on her iPod there, like she has on her MP3 player different poems that she's listening to try to memorize what they are. So she's showing some dedication, right? Girl is showing that she's trying. So then we find out that her friend Taichi has transferred, and they're like, that's what makes you the queen, Ayase-san. None are left who know me. Back when I really enjoyed karate. So she talks about when she enjoyed karate, and that was when she could play with Taichi and Arata. So something has happened in between the 3 years that they played and now that has driven them apart. Whether it was them going to different middle schools or whether it was them trying to get into different high schools, something's driven them apart. We don't know what that is yet, but that's probably going to be revealed as we go through this series. So then Taichi shows up. And he says they call you beauty in vain because you just plop yourself on the ground. I think that that's a really silly title. I wouldn't call her beauty in vain. I think that she's pretty just the way she is. And if y'all can't handle her like that, then that's wasted on you. I do think it's sad that she's starting to like tear up right as Taichi shows up. And then she sees him. And he says, Chihaya. I love it. But she hasn't seen him in a while. So Taichi had a glow up. Taichi had a major glow up from his 5-head days in middle school. So we don't know if they were separated after the 6th grade. Here's the thing. I feel like 6th grade in Japan, isn't that usually the end of elementary school? I want to know middle school years. So Japan middle school grades are typically 7th through 9th. Oh, okay. So 6th would have been the last of elementary. Okay. So they went to elementary school And for that year of 6th grade, they got into Kurata. And then they probably all separated after elementary school and went to different middle schools, because then we have Taichi. And Taichi, he played soccer while he was in middle school. She did track and Taichi played soccer. We don't know what Arata did yet, but so they've been separated for a couple years. And so he has come to the same high school that she has. And she's really excited about this. She's like, I didn't think you'd ever come here. She's like, I figured you'd stay at the fancy academy with the free ride for high school. So she talks about how Taichi went to a fancy middle school, but he said it was too far of a commute. Which, yeah, some Japanese schools are really far commutes. Like an hour and a half every day is insane to go to high school. No, thank you. Now, granted, my freshman year of high school and sophomore year of high school, before I had a car, I did ride the bus and get on the bus at like 6:45 every morning and take like an hour and a half bus ride. But then I got a car and it was like 10 minutes. So, yeah, no. So I definitely understand why he would go. But my theory is that he wanted to reconnect. He wanted to reconnect with Chihaya. He wanted to reconnect with her. So, because I mean, that is, to randomly go from the fancy middle school and free ride right into the high school to him being like, oh, I just wanted to come specifically to your public school. Okay. Yeah. And he's like, that hurt. I like the way that she's really rough with him because they know each other and they're friends, but he says it's more surprising that she made it into a good public school. And she's like, what? She's like, Elwood. She's like, what? Like, it's hard? Leave her alone. Girl's great. And then he looks over and realizes how pretty she is. And of course, Taichi is the classic dynamic of the kid when they were in grade school that he picked on her and kicked her around. It was mean to her. And now that they're older, he's like, oh shit, she's hot. And then he's like, realizes the errors of his ways. So from what it seems, Taichi was this really rambunctious, like pseudo bully in grade school, that now he seems a lot more soft and mature now that he's gotten older. I don't know. He kind of gives me vibes of the redhead from Fruits Baskets a little bit. But yeah, he instantly is like very crushing on her. And she's like, oh, you've gotten taller. And I like that when they were in grade school, their contention was that they were the same height. And now he's like, 5 centimeters taller than her. And he's like, you can stop growing anytime. And I love it that she's so nice to him and they're friends. And I feel like he just has a crush on her. And she's so sweet to him. And she's so happy to see him. I love it. So he's like, Chihaya, you probably aren't very popular with the guys. I don't know why not. She's like so straightforward and kind and interesting and quirky. Like, why would you want to date a boring girl? She's so interesting. And she tells it like it is, I don't think she cares if she's popular with the guys, though. And they're sitting there. And he keeps looking over at her. So what's interesting is he supposedly has a girlfriend, but then as soon as she, talks to him about it, and she's like, oh, you have a girlfriend. And he's like, oh, well, but he instantly says that it's not serious, which poor girlfriend. He's like, oh, well, was it a shock that I had a girlfriend? And she was like, oh, I wouldn't expect you to have. And in that moment, you can kind of see the gears turning in his head where I don't know if he thought maybe he had no chance with her. And so he has this girlfriend. And then when he sees that, Chihaya might have been into him, he was like, oh, well, I'm only with her because she asked me out. I was like, dude, even if that's true, that's not fair to that girl. That's not fair to that girl that you agreed to date. So I don't know if that's winning you any brownie points, sir. He's like, I'm not really attached to her or anything. But she, at that point, like Taichi at that moment is contemplating dumping the girlfriend that he supposedly just got for no reason to date her, thinking he has a chance, which is probably why he went to that school. But she wasn't sad that he got a girlfriend because it means she can't date him. She thinks that the girlfriend means that he's not going to be dedicated to Kurata. She's like, what happened to our polygamous platonic relationship between the three of us? What happened to that? Right? And that's when she says maybe Arata has found something more important than Kurata. And the moment it became a love triangle was when she said that line, because the way that Taichi reacts to that line is that he immediately is like, Like, he immediately backs up and he does the anime shields the hair with the eyes like, Arata, I thought we were over him. I smell a love triangle, if I do declare. He's like, what's that supposed to mean? And she's like, I just want to play Kurata with you guys. So then he says, have you been in touch with Arata? And she says, no, I didn't get a New Year's card from him. Arata wasn't at last year's national tournament. So something's happened. Something's happened with Arata. The reason why he's not there. I don't know if something's happened to his mom. I don't know if because he seems so passionate about it. I don't know why. It seems like we'll put Arata up here. It seemed like Arata had been playing Kurata maybe after elementary school. And she had been keeping up, but he's been out of touch. So I don't know if there's something personally going on in his life and that's why he's out of touch, or what the deal is, or if he's training somewhere, or what's going on. She was like, I was on the track team in middle school, so I've never been to a tournament. And so Taichi tries to convince her to not do karate. He's like, well, you could do track. He's like, I'm going to do something else in high school. And she's like, well, I thought we were going to start a karate team. Like, she's like, I thought you were going to play with me. We're at the same high school. Like, why'd you come here if you weren't? And he's like, well, I spent most of my time in middle school playing soccer, and we're not going to play karate forever. I feel really sad about this because I feel like Taichi doesn't like Kurata so much because Arata is associated with it, and because Arata is on her mind, because there's that connection to Kurata. Taichi would rather her forget about Kurata, because forgetting about Kurata means forgetting about Arata. Forgetting about Arata means that she might think of him more. So, I feel like that's his train of thought, which is kind of sad because she's over here thinking, I thought we were going to do this together and be friends, and it was going to be this fun thing, and I want her to pursue her dream and her passion, whatever that might be. And she talks about a poem about losing old friends. And then we see in this flashback her holding the hands of both of them. It looks like they're all packing up like they're moving. So like they're going separate ways. She is wearing the childlike Yagami collection of the black turtleneck with her hair color. But it looks like, and of course, what's funny is Arata is blushing as she's holding his hand. Taichi is not. So maybe Taichi realized after the fact. I don't know. This love triangle is going to throw me in 1,000 directions, I'm sure. But it seemed like she was making them have a pact. They'd keep playing Kurata and meet back up again to play, and it just has not ended up happening. So we go back to the past in the flashback, and we see, 3 years ago in Tokyo, where she lived, that her sister makes it to the final round of a beauty pageant, and she talks about getting the newspaper to bring in tomorrow. I love that Chihaya had like this short boyish haircut. It's super cute. And of course, Taichi's like, oh, well, your sister's exactly the opposite of you. And she like kicks him and everything. I love it. I love the trope of the girl that was stereotypically tomboyish when she was a kid, and then she becomes beautiful in high school. And the one guy that was bullying her is like, oh, I've seen the errors of my ways. That's such a love trope. And I'm like, oh, I would be all into that if there wasn't the other trope of the super shy guy that becomes friends with her and reveals his secret passions. That one's really good too. And we get both in this series, so I love it. I love how much of a brat he is. And then she befriends Arata. What's so sad is that in this one scene in the classroom, which, damn, all these grade school kids are such bullies, which, having been a former grade schooler, true. But they express so much in this one moment, the idea that Arata, he doesn't have a lot of money. He wears the same clothes because his mother doesn't have a lot of money. He seems like a latchkey kid, and he just knows that he wants to become the greatest Kurata player because it seems something tangible to him. He seems to have a photographic memory because he knows where all the people's houses are for the newspaper route, and he knows like who has canceled subscriptions and who's not, which I would imagine a photographic memory would be very helpful in this game where you have to memorize poetry verses. I'd imagine you'd be pretty damn good at that if that were the case. So, but he said he was from Fukui, Japan. Prefecture. Fukui to Tokyo. How much difference? Oh, it's 6.5 hours away. Okay, it is on like the western side of Japan, and Tokyo is on the eastern side. Okay, so yeah, it's a 6.5 hour drive. Okay, that is interesting. So, well, Fukui is known for a dinosaur museum, so that's good. So yeah, so he's basically traveled a long way to get there, but he very much has the country bumpkin vibes of it, because the girl has the notebook and she says we've been taking notes on his dialect, and it says the Wataya lexicon. Hey means hey, yeah means yeah. Stick it. Well, I'll tell you what stick it means, but you don't want to hear it. Yeah, and les means let's, and canker. Well, there's some words there, girl, that you probably don't need to know the answers to. But I love Chihaya's answer of, why are you guys taking notes just so you can make fun of him? Because you're not doing it to be his friend. I was like, girl, bitch, speak your truth. Speak your truth, girl. I love that. I love that she's like, if I were him, I wouldn't want somebody to do that. And that gets gets Taichi's attention. And so I feel like Taichi, what he likes about Chihaya and what he might be envious of is her ability to have all of this resolve. Because Taichi, he's a jealous kid. He's jealous and envious. You can tell because of the way he reacts when he kicks Arata into the mud. He's like, oh, now you don't have any pants and stuff to wear to school, which is a really mean thing to do. But it's just him projecting his own anger and insecurities. Whereas Chihaya, she doesn't seem to have a lot of insecurities. I mean, she's ditzy and she, gets sad and has emotions, but she doesn't seem to have a lot of like insecurities. Whereas Taichi seems to have quite a few. And so does Arata. So I'm all for this girl helping these men to come out of their shells, right? But she's so pure, and Taichi notices that. But then anyway, so we get Arata doing the route, and he gives her the newspaper. I love that they meet, and he's instantly blushing as he gives her the newspaper. I don't know. I'm kind of Team Arata, but I don't know. Team Taichi might grow on me since he's grown up a little bit. But young Arata is pretty adorable. I also love when she taunts the newspaper at her sister and points to her in the background. The sister's like, really? I like the realism of the sister's bedroom. Like there's like the metal framing that looks like the roses, but then there's like the little dresser and everything. And I love how proud Chihaya is of her sister. She's super proud. It's awesome. So yeah, then they have the 100 poems. Then they're gonna have the tournament. And even though I like that Taichi got all of them, and Chihaya tried her best, but then there was one other student. Of course, they were like, oh, you memorized all of them. And he's like, yes. And they're like, oh, that was quick. And he's like all proud of it. And then, of course, there's one other person who had memorized all of them alongside Taichi. And it's our other love interest. The two of them are really good. The two of them are really good. And, of course, Chihaya, I feel like I think Taichi gets jealous because Chihaya seems to notice Arata more than him. But I think the fact of the matter is that Chihaya wants Arata to feel welcome. And so she, as an extrovert, here's the thing. My best friend is an extrovert, and she has described this, that when you're an extrovert, you feed off of other people's energy. And so she's like, if there's somebody that's, quiet, she's like, I want to break them out of their shell, and I want you to come on and let's go have fun. Let's party. And I feel like that's Chihaya with Arata. She wants Arata to become part of the fun because that's just going to make her energy even bigger. And Taichi just doesn't realize that. Taichi probably assumes that she's ignoring him when that's not the case. She just wants Arata to become part of the social group, and she wants him to come and hang out with them. But Taichi doesn't quite get... Taichi interprets her attention at Arata as she doesn't care about Taichi, she cares about Arata, when I think really Chihaya, she cares about both of them. She just wants Arata to get on the same level as her and Taichi, right? And he just does not realize that. So yeah, because whenever he sees like the one girl go at the locker and he sees Arata hanging out with Chihaya, he slams the locker shut because she wants to go hang out with him. Yeah, I love the idea when they take him home. So we see Arata's like apartment, and then poor Chihaya, she says the first thing that comes to her mouth, which is, "Oh, this place is falling apart." So it's this really cheap apartment. It's got a heater in it. Like the clothes are hanging up there in the living room. It's like a 1-bedroom apartment. It's not very luxurious. Whereas you have, you know, Chihaya lives in a house. Like they got money. And clearly Arata's family does not have money. They're living in like a studio apartment, him and his mom. You know, everything's in that one room. And so then he shows her the card game. And he's like, and he shows her how to play and everything, which is so cute. I love they have the boxes there, and she shows him the sister, and then says that, what does she say? "It's my dream to see my sister become the top model." And he's like, "Well, then that's not a dream because it's not your dream. You have to have your own dream. You can't take your sister's." So I think that that's going to come back into play in all of this. I feel like the idea of not being able to take someone else's dream, because I think Chihaya, she wants Taichi and Arata to play with her and to play Kurata with her. But I feel like that idea of just because you want somebody else to play doesn't mean you get to the right to interpret that as your dream. I think that's going to come back and be a thing and be something that he points out later to her. I feel like that's all going to come back. Like, what is your dream versus what is Arata and Taichi's dream, right? Because she wants them to play and for things to stay the same, but it's not how this works. So then he brings out the cards. I love it's in a little box that's taped together. And he shows her how to play. And she's like, "Oh, we have a karate tournament." And the moment she's interested, he instantly gets the tapes out. Oh, I love it. I love how excited he is about it. Because he probably hasn't found anybody that's wanted to play with him. And it's like, you know, playing by yourself is not the same thing. So what you do is you line up 25 cards in 3 rows. Seems simple enough. This game seems very complicated and very focus driven. When the first verse of a poem is read, you grab the card with the second verse. Okay. And she's like, "Well, I've only memorized 50 poems, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to be next." And he's like, "Oh, well, it's just a game," even though he slices one through the air like a ninja star. Uh-huh. And even though he says it's just a game, Chihaya instantly notices how focused he is. Yeah, you would have to be focused so intensely this whole time. Like, it feels high stakes. I love how the anime makes everything feel so heightened in that moment. And he slides the card away and it like slices. Like, you need to wear some protective gear if you're gonna like play this game around Arata, or you might get starred in the face with a card. And I love how the mat has different holes in it already where he's already thrown some cards into it. I love it. And so she tries to beat him, but he keeps on. So you have 25 cards. I'm assuming that the first person to get all of the cards out wins or gets the most cards. I love it. And she just wants to get one card for herself. And that's when she sees that one card to go for it. I love it. It's so cute. I also love how lived in this entire environment is, like it being dark with the light coming in, with the Sony boom box. And I love how she's so excited. She's like, "I beat you to a card." And then she's like, "You're really too good." And he's like, "Well, you did take a card." And then he says, "Well, even though I'm really good, I had fun." And to him, he's like, it's not winning that's important, it's having fun. But he does want to be competitive. So he says in Fukui, everyone played Kurata. That's not the case in Tokyo. So we get to see this man with his arm around Arata. I wonder if that is his grandfather maybe, or if it's, you know, if it's the person that he defeated. It seems like it could be a grandfather. And maybe they've passed and that's why they moved. Because you can also see him in the other picture that's on the shelf too. Okay. He says, "I usually play by myself." And she's like, "By yourself listening to the tape? You should play with other people." He's like, "It's not an easy game." But that means if you become the best player in Japan, you'd be the best in the world. And yeah, so that's the thing, because other countries don't really play it, which it would be hard. Thinking of the logistics, you're memorizing Japanese poets' poems. It's very tied to that culture. It would be, you know, like if we did it here in the US and you had American poets. I mean, someone in Norway probably hasn't memorized every American poet, right? They probably don't know all of Maya Angelou. So, I mean, I could understand why it would be very centralized to just Japan. Because, I mean, unless you've just been going on reading Japanese poets' works. All right. He says, my dream is to become a Kurata master. So a lot of this series seems to be tied to what is going to be Chihaya's dream. Is her dream going to be a Kurata master, or is she just choosing that dream because it gets her closer to Arata and Taichi and allows her to make friends? Has she developed her own dream? We have 3 seasons to find out, friends. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, he says Chihaya is a good name. The red that is the Tatsuta River. The first verse begins with the Chihayafuru. Oh, with Chihayafuru, impassionate. Ooh. Ooh. Interesting that Chihayafuru means impassionate. Chihayafuru equals impassionate. Roll credits. I mean, I kind of like that because she starts out kind of aloof, that she doesn't really have a focus. She's just like flying through the air. Like she hasn't figured out where her focus is going to be. He's like, the card begins with Chihayafuru. And it says, this is the card you pick up when you hear Chihaya. So in my mind, this is the Chihaya card. Oh, here's my thing. I feel like Taichi's done a 180 in character where he was a little precocious scamp that was a brat. And now he's like matured and gotten to be like, you know, a more cooler high school kid, even though he probably still has the same insecurities. I feel like Arata is a secret softie and a precious angel baby, but in high school, he's probably gotten harder skinned, like thicker skinned and bitter. And I'm waiting for that realization. Like he's going to be very like, oh, I don't want to talk Chihaya. And she's going to be like, but we were besties. I just see it coming. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I want to see him smile like that again, because she's all about that. And then the mom comes up saying, is this a friend? Is this a girlfriend? And he's like, no. And then she's like, Arata's girlfriend, would you like some yams? Which all I can think of when I see the yams is from Unico, where Katie the cat is like, the old woman has yams because she's poor and that's all that she can get because yams are pretty inexpensive. Interesting. Interesting. And it says, and passionate gods have never seen. And then it goes to the next line. He was so fast. And she like does the card swiping through the air. And she talks about his dream. The red that is a Tatsuta River. Okay. And then it shows him practicing again. She says, on the day I first played with Arata, I learned more about just Kurata. I discovered Arata's passion. Because that's kind of Chihaya's thing. Chihaya likes other people's dreams, and she likes being involved in them because she gets excited about it. So I feel like she wants to be involved in Arata's dream. But the question is, where does that take her? And in the end, Arata's like, well, my dream can't be yours. So then what is her own dream? And we'll find out in this series. So I'm really excited. Chihaya, I love her already. She has so much room to grow as a character, and that has me really excited. I am so into Arata's character. And Taichi, I'm ready to see him grow as well. So we'll find out and see where we go. So, But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. Again, please feel free to comment down below. Please no spoilers, hints, or clues. We're going to find out as the show gives us. So every Thursday for the next 77 weeks. Every Thursday, we're going to be looking at Chihayafuru, so I hope you're ready. Anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Chihayafuru. Bye!